When you're looking at getting a mortgage, one of the things that people are not taking into consideration is how safe is their information. And I think it is something that consumers need to be paying a lot more attention to. Okay, if you're new to the channel, I'm a mortgage lender licensed in 48 states. I'm one of the top 1% of lenders in the country. I've been a mortgage lender for 17 years, so I've watched the evolution of technology as well as the evolution of stupidity, is what I'm gonna call it, with security. So let's go over some of the basics. If you're working with like a big mortgage lender, so I work at Guaranteed Rate Mortgage, if you're working with a big bank, we're all gonna have an online application and we're gonna have big security teams behind those online applications, okay? And the reason's simple. If your information's compromised, big companies have deep pockets and they are gonna be liable. Also, it's the right thing to do. So you do see serious investments from the larger players in the market in securing your information. Now, does that mean you have to just work with a larger player? No. However, okay, if I was getting a mortgage, there's 3 things that I would insist on. Number 1, I would want to do a digital mortgage. What that means is I would want to fill out the mortgage online. I would want to be able to verify it's a secure site, it's the loan officer I want to work with, the company is legitimate, and you can tell it from the address bar, the licensing, it's all there. But I would want to enter my information for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's the most secure way to give your information, okay? But number 2, I would want a log of what I entered. That's right, because a lot of times when people think of mortgage fraud, they go, oh, well, it's always the buyer or the person trying to get the loan perpetrating mortgage fraud. That's not true. Sometimes it's the lender. So if anyone ever committed mortgage fraud, right, and the buyer had nothing to do with it, if you've got that initial application in the system, it shows that. There's a log of everything, for most companies. So I think that's important, just from like a zero stress process. I like the digital mortgage because I find that when people fill it out, they enjoy the process more. Their names are spelled correct. They can do it in the middle of the night. They don't have to make an appointment to do it. They can do it in the car. They can do it on the train. All of this stuff is so portable now. Now, the next thing I would insist on is I would insist on a secure portal. Okay, so for instance, when you fill out your application with me, my team's gonna send you a link. That link is to your secure portal. It's just your documents. It's not like everybody's documents or anything like that. It's your secure portal. Now, it's important. Anything you upload, we can't delete. But once again, we're creating a record of what's been uploaded. And it's better from a streamlined process because everyone can see, so it's never like, oh, we don't have it, or I sent it. It's visible. 2, it's secure, so you're less likely to have your identity compromised by sharing your documents. And 3, once again, on mortgage fraud, if you upload your documents, let's say you upload a bank statement or a pay stub, it should have a record of that, right? So if a lender then alters it, and I know this sounds crazy, and look, it doesn't happen a lot, but are there cases where lenders have altered people's pay stubs, W-2s, and bank statements so they would qualify? Yes. And often the consumer doesn't know. It's scary, okay? That is rare. The biggest reason I would do this is for the customer service, if everybody can see it, you and your loan officer and their assistants, as well as the security. Security is critical. The third thing is, would I work with a lender that was not using company email? No. And that's what always blows my mind is I'll see stuff where someone's like, yeah, I was working with this lender and I'm like, okay, cool. What were you doing? They're like, well, I kept on emailing them docs. I'm like, what were their email? Oh, it was, iloveloans@yahoo.com. I'm like, you're kidding, right? No. It's like the lender's Gmail. It's a personal account. It's not a secure business account. And I think that's incredibly important. You don't want your documents just randomly going over email. Everything needs to be accounted for, right? And here's the other thing that you guys need to know. So from a licensing perspective, if there was ever an issue, right? If you, let's say 10 years from now, you're like, I think I was a victim of mortgage abuse, blah, 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 blah. My company has all my emails. Everything, every email you send me, every email I send you, it's there. I could delete it. It doesn't matter. It's going to archive to a server, right? And for accountability, that can be a really good thing. So when you start playing with Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, there's no accountability, right? The companies don't have any eyes on those emails. So you're like, well, why would a loan officer not use their company email? It's really stupid. It's because they're like, well, what if I don't stay at this company? I don't want to lose my client. And it's like, if you switch companies, your clients will follow you if you're good. It's that simple. If you switch companies, if your clients like you, they will follow you. You don't need to have your clients in an unsecure situation just so that if you decide to switch companies, you have them hostage. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I would watch out for that. The other thing to keep in mind is I will never send your documents to anyone else. I'm not going to. And if, for instance, you're like, hey, Jen, can you send all of my documents to X? No. Can you send my bank statement? No. And lenders shouldn't. And here's why. Once we take a document out of our system and we send it somewhere else, we can't secure it. We can't keep you safe, and that's the thing that I think is so interesting. Like, in one part of California, it's like ridiculous. They're always like, the listing agents are like, send me all of the buyer docs. I want their W-2s and their pay. And it's like, what? You're a real estate agent. You don't need any of that. Knock it off, right? But like, it's this weird cultural thing where you have to like slap them back because they're so used to asking for all of this. And it's like, why would I send you an identity toolkit to steal my client's identity? That's ridiculous. Or they'll be like, hey, if your client wants this house, you need to send all the information to my lender, bobbysthelender@gmail.com. And I'm like, no. And the worst thing is I'll talk to real estate agents because we always say hell no. And they'll be like, well, my lender just does it without telling the client. And I'm like, wow. Guys, can you imagine how angry would you be if your pay stubs and W-2s and all of your stuff is going to like a real estate agent or some lender you don't know without your permission? Type it in the comments if you're still watching. Would you be mad? I would be mad. How do you know they're not going to steal your identity? If your identity is stolen, you're going to have a hell of a time tracking it down because you never even knew you were exposed. Okay, which leads me to the last and most startling development in Lenderland. So I've heard this 3 times now. Hustle culture has problems, and one of those problems is that lenders have leaned into it. So basically, I had someone they were telling me about how one of their friends is doing their business, and wow, they can do so much business. Yeah, so part of their tricks is they hire assistants overseas. And what they do is they do a quick application over the phone with you, take a picture, send it overseas. Those people type everything up, and then it gets put in the system. How do they find these people? Because you're like, wow, Jen, I mean, that's great. If they're overseas, like, that's cool. Like, whatever, free world. Yeah, they're finding them like on random websites, and they're just hiring them based on the fact that they'll work for like $3 an hour. There's no background, there's no security, there's no vetting, and you don't even know about it. Their companies, like the companies these people work for, would lose their minds if they knew this was going on. So it's like, that one to me is so crazy that I would say if someone's saying, no, I really want to do the application over the phone, I'd be like, I want to do your online application. Can you please send me a link? And if they really push, you've got to go, why? Why, right? And it's one of 2 things. Either you have a loan officer that thinks they'll only get their business if they do that application over the phone with you, which leads you to go, well, wait a second, like, if that's the selling point, what else are they not giving me? Like, that's weird. Or number 2, it's one of those situations where they're outsourcing their labor, and if you're getting emails from their assistant that's like a Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, or let's say they work at a big company, but it's not that company, right? Maybe it's, the lender's Bobby Jones team and he works at XYZ Bank, and the assistant, it says, Betty at BobbyJonesTeam.com, you have no guarantee that that person's been vetted. If it's with the bank or, the company they work for, there's guidelines. So really be aware of this right now. That's what I would recommend based on what I'm seeing. Personally, I'm getting even more restrictive. Like, Moving forward on the phone, I'm never going to ask anyone for social security or date of birth. I'm very concerned about deep fakes. I'm concerned about, people taking other people's voices and impersonating them. I have a lot of concerns about that in the social media sphere. So if you're ever, if someone calls you and claims to be me and is asking for social security and date of birth, it's not me. So really keep your eyes open. We're moving into uncharted times. That is the stuff I would do right now to protect yourself. I'm sure as we continue, it will evolve. Thanks for watching.